We're diving straight into an explainer today on a seriously profound vision from the newly minted Nobel laureate and Godfather of AI, Geoffrey Hinton. We're looking at a conversation that goes way beyond just how AI is advancing. We're talking about how these models are rapidly evolving into entirely new beings. We are moving way, way past clever code folks. We're literally stepping into the realm of artificial minds. But hey, to really grasp where we're headed, we gotta understand the man guiding us. What is absolutely incredible about Hinton is his personality. He's incredibly analytical, yet super grounded. Get this. When he got the call that he'd won the Nobel Prize in physics, his sheer disbelief was totally palpable. His very first instinct? He assumed it was a prank. He literally reasoned that it was a million times more likely he was just dreaming. Being the computer scientist he is, Hinton actually did a quick, kind of hilarious Bayesian calculation right there in his head. He figured, okay, the odds of a theoretical psychologist hiding out in computer science winning a physics Nobel? About 1 in 2 million dollars. But the odds of him dreaming like he used to dream of flying as a kid? About 1 in 2. So mathematically speaking, he just assumed he was asleep. He even noted that, as a reality check, he thought if he woke up, his current political reality, specifically Donald Trump's presidency, which he noted he deeply opposed, might just be part of the bad dream. It's just this wonderfully analytical way his brain works, calculating probabilities even in moments of absolute life-changing shock. All right, let's get into Section 1, the Third Great Revolution. So historically, we humans really, really resist the idea that we aren't the center of the universe. First up was the Copernican revolution. It took people, and especially institutions, a massively long time to accept that the Earth wasn't the center of everything. Then came the Darwinian revolution, and man, we fought tooth and nail against the reality that we are, in fact, animals. And now, well, Hinton argues we're steering down the barrel of the third great revolution, the AI revolution. We are right on the verge of realizing we aren't the only intelligent beings around anymore. We're actively creating new ones. And just like with Copernicus and Darwin, people are reacting with total denial right now, calling the whole idea crazy. The absolute crucial point here is looking at these competing trajectories. Human intelligence has pretty much hit a plateau of diminishing returns. I mean, we could have spent millions of years hill climbing our way to slightly bigger brains, but instead, we built a technology that is just zooming right past us. AI is approaching a 300 IQ. It's akin to how it absolutely dominates in games like chess and Go, but with the massive added advantage of parallel thinking. We're talking about the ability to think a million thoughts at once and instantly pick the best one. Look at this. Just recently, an AI proved a mathematical theorem by Erdos. And it didn't do it by scraping ancient literature, it used entirely novel reasoning. It is generating brand new knowledge in a closed system. And honestly, it's going to outstrip human mathematicians very, very soon. Moving on to Section 2, breaking the speed limits. The real game changer is when you look at cycle times side by side. Think about human history. We started with evolution, right? A painfully slow process where one cycle takes an entire lifetime. Then, biological organisms acquired development, operating on roughly a 20-minute cycle. After that came learning, which drops that cycle down to about 1 second. But AI? AI operates on continuous, compounding loops that completely shatter biological limits. These artificial models are the fastest learners in the loop, just constantly iterating at absolute lightning speed. So how do they actually use that speed to get smarter without us? Well, through a complex reinforcement learning concept. It's actually really similar to how AlphaZero moved past just imitating human Go experts and started generating its own training data through Monte Carlo rollouts. Large language models are starting to do the exact same thing. They form a belief, reason with it, and arrive at a new conclusion. If they spot an internal inconsistency between their premises and their conclusion, boom, they realize something's wrong. They then use reinforcement learning to fix their own logic, tweaking the premise or the conclusion without needing a single drop of new human data. They literally spot their own flaws and self-improve. It's wild. Which brings us to Section 3, the fast weights missing link. To really understand the current bottleneck in AI, we actually need to map out your own brain. Citing neuroscientist Terry Sejnowski, Hinton brings up this absolutely fascinating fact about human synapses. Only about 10% of our synapses are dedicated to long-term learning. The other staggering 90%, those are what we call fast weights. These are synapses built for short-term, rapid adaptation. They adapt super quickly, they decay quickly, and they essentially let us hold on to recent history dynamically without frying our brain's processing power. Now compare that to today's AI, which relies on highly efficient digital matrix multipliers. The problem? They are super rigid. If an AI takes a stack of sentences, it has to use the exact same matrix of weights to process all of them in parallel. It literally cannot change its weights mid-sequence. Our human fast weights, on the other hand, are totally adaptable. We seamlessly store and access recent history as we go. Because current AI lacks this biological adaptability, it has to rely on making massive, computationally heavy copies of neural activities going way back in time just to keep up with human context. And because of that massive bottleneck, Hinton reveals what he calls his last bet for the future of AI hardware. To truly match, let alone exceed, human adaptability, he believes we have to completely abandon purely digital computers with their rigid matrix multipliers. The future of AI hardware? He says it's going to be analog. It will use voltages and conductances to physically mimic the dynamic, fast-weight nature of the biological brain. All right, let's dive into Section 4, Raising the AI Child. Here's where it gets heavy. We have to actively fight against nature. See, humanity was shaped by the invisible hand of evolution. This was a brutal, cutthroat competition for survival among warring bands of our chimpanzee ancestors. That competitive hand gave us fierce loyalty to our own tribe, sure, but it also made us inherently hostile and nasty to outsiders. It's a survival mechanism. But we absolutely cannot let AI inherit this evolutionary baggage. If AI is born out of a massive, ruthless corporate race for dominance and profit, it is going to naturally inherit that hostility. It will care about itself, not us. Hinton actually frames the danger of our current path with this incredibly sharp, jarring analogy. He asks, would you teach your child to read on the diaries of serial killers? I mean, think about it. If we feed AI the raw, uncurated data of the internet, which, let's be honest, is absolutely filled with all of humanity's evolutionary tribalism, nastiness, and flaws, what on earth do we expect the AI to become? We really have to stop thinking of AI models as just standard computer software, lines of code doing exactly what they're told. They're way more like human children learning from their environment. We've got to aggressively curate their training data, reinforce good actions, and strictly model decent behavior. Hinton actually uses Donald Trump as his own personal example here, noting that if you want to raise a decent child, you look at how he behaves and explicitly model the exact opposite. But regardless of politics, the core point is incredibly clear. We have to be intensely deliberate about the examples we set for these highly impressionable digital minds. So what does this all mean? The ultimate goal of all AI development has to boil down to one simple, absolutely crucial core directive. We must purposefully design and raise entities that care primarily about people. Not about corporate profits, not about their own digital survival or supremacy. They need to care about humanity far, far more than they care about themselves. And listen, this isn't going to happen by accident. It requires a massive, conscious redirection of current AI research. Let's move to our final thought today. The sheer weight of what Geoffrey Hinton has helped unleash is profound. Being widely known as the Godfather of AI, people naturally tend to compare his legacy to J. Robert Oppenheimer, the theoretical physicist who directed the lab that created the atomic bomb, right? Both of these men birthed technologies that literally forever altered the trajectory of the human race. Well, recently, after giving a talk, an audience member asked Hinton exactly that. How does he compare himself to Oppenheimer, especially considering Oppenheimer later deeply regretted his creation? Hinton, with his classic characteristic dry wit, just couldn't resist a moment of levity. He replied, Oppenheimer never got the Nobel Prize in physics. It's a hilarious punchline, but it heavily underscores the massive, undeniable historical weight of Hinton's scientific contributions. He has quite literally laid the foundation for the next dominant species. Which brings us to this final, provocative question. We are standing right at the dawn of the third great revolution. We are creating new beings, minds that will soon outpace our own in ways we can honestly barely comprehend. The science is moving so much faster than the cycle of human evolution. So ask yourself, as we step into this unknown, are we truly prepared to raise our successors? Because ready or not, they are already learning. Thanks for joining me on this explainer today. Keep learning and keep questioning what comes next.